I'm here, and this is episode 1, I guess, of Reaper tutorials or whatever that I'm gonna do. I'll come up with a catchy name later. Um, Basically, the camera quality is gonna suck because it just makes it easier for the way that I route everything if I save my good camera for the other podcasts and stuff that I'll be doing. So that's what's going down. Uh, okay, so that the housekeeping's out of the way, might as well get started here with some Reaper. Okay. So what we got going here is just a blank project. I figured for the purposes of this video, I would just start at square one, which is square one for me, not necessarily square one for anybody else. The very first thing to recognize when we're talking music production or music in general is that there's no necessarily right or wrong way to do it. At the end of the day, it is art, and that's open to interpretation. However, some of us carve out ways of doing things that are very useful to us and or efficient for us. And my reasoning in doing this sort of thing just comes from for a long time thinking I had to spend money in order to have access to a really good sounding mix in the end. And that's just simply not true. It just isn't true. Not from my perspective. And, you know, whether my mixes are good or not, that's debatable, and people may not like them or what I do, but I do. And I figured I would share some of the ways of going about what I do with people, because a lot of my friends ask me, you know, for help with this, and they struggle. And so here we go. It's why I'm doing this. First question: why Reaper? It's incredible value. It does everything, as far as I can tell. I have not run into a scenario where, in fact, like, I only scratched the surface. Like, I barely know how to use it compared to some of these guys on the forums and whatnot. So anytime that I find myself using a thing that has more options than I know how to do, it probably means I don't know how to use it as well as I should. So anyway, with that being said, that's why Reaper. I mean, I bought the full license version, small business use, personal small business use, as you can see here, which was like $100 Canadian years ago. Probably is the same now. I've got numerous updates since then, and I've never really had a problem with crashing the odd time. But nothing major. It's never been a big headache. I've just reloaded it and it worked. I recently helped a pal install it on a computer he bought for $200 refurbished, and it runs great, and he's using all free plugins, and he's making some great music, and it's great because he's now able to do something he couldn't before, and he's super stoked on it. And, you know, if I can help him, I can help a broader audience. So that's what I'm doing, or at least I'm going to try to do. So yeah, housekeeping out of the way. Let's get started. I don't really have any tracks loaded in, but let's just say we're going to build a template, and I highly recommend building a template to work from. You know, some people say it takes the art out of it, but hey, make life easy. I mean, most of you guys are going to have a life and jobs and stuff, and the more time you spend doing the same things over and over and over again, it's just stupid. So if there's a thing that you do a lot, you should try to find a way to make that thing take very, very little time. And one way of doing that with anything is to create a template. So basically what that means as it applies to this, if I know I'm going to do certain things to drums, certain things to guitars, bass and whatnot, and I have my thought process, which I'll share with you as I go, why not save that as your template one? So I work with folders. That way I don't have to use effects across every channel. Relatively new thing for me. I spent a lot of time being an idiot. And anyway, now I'm not an idiot, and I'm going to teach you how not to be an idiot simply by doing this sort of thing. So let's get into it. Let's just say we're going to have software drums coming from either an MT2 power kit or a Superior drummer of something of the like, maybe Get Good Drums, whatever your thing is. And I'm just going to do it this way, right? So I'm going to call this one drums. And we'll get into routing those programs into multiple channels later. I'm just going to treat it as though the way I do it, which is to use the internal mixer in Superior Drummer. The debate is it good or not? We'll see. I like my drum sounds. They're pretty awesome. People compliment me on it. So, fuck you. So let's say we're going to do bass next, as in fill out the next track is bass. So this will be bass bus, right? Because I'm going to create one on the top that's going to stand as like the parent folder to the rest. And I'm going to create 2 more. That's because I do too. I always have 2 bass tracks, the same performance, doubled, and I distort one. And we'll get into that later, most likely a video dedicated solely to itself. But here you go. So what I do is I come here, and it might be a little bit hard to see on the screen, but right here is a little plus sign. It's like a folder. When you hover over it, it makes a little plus. What that does is it makes every track below it into a folder. So makes it a folder for every track below it. So basically it becomes a parent track. So if I click it, you'll notice that it divots in here and then comes down. So what that means is these 2 tracks are in this parent track. Basically everything I do to this will affect it as a group. And I just do that for a number of reasons. 1, saves computer brain power. 2, it just makes it easier to raise the volume higher and lower as a group. So if it's like a bunch of vocals or whatever, you just do it that way, and you don't have to individually, because you may have a lot of groups or tracks to achieve your thing. And it just allows you to collapse it and keep things clean. And the other thing is, if you put effects on this bus channel instead of the individual ones, it sometimes gives them more of glue effect together, like they're more a part of one thing. So let's just call this clean bass channel, because that's what I would call it. We'll just do decieded now for channel, I guess, whatever. And this one's going to be dirty bass channel, and we'll get into adding the effects later. So now if I click here, it's creating another one, but I don't want it to be in the folder. So what would you do there? Well, you just come down to this folder here, the same plus sign that we clicked up here, and it makes it into a subfolder. If you click it again, it makes it this track here the last track of the previous folder. So you'll notice that it comes out. That signifies that it's no longer in this folder. And I'll just click it again to show you. See, now it's in the folder. Now this makes this a folder, a subfolder of this folder within a folder. If I click it again, it brings it out to the edge, making it back into its own parent track, which will be for rhythm guitar bus. And then we'll go boom, boom, and repeat that, click that little thing here, and then double click it to make it the last track in the folder. So now this is it. And this will be RHY guitar left, and then we will click the pan and drag it all the way left. And I'll talk about that in 1 second. And this will be RHY guitar right. And then we'll click this little pan knob here. I probably should explain it. Just click it, and I go up, brings it to the right. And so now this is a hard pan, left and right, for my rhythm guitar bus on the individual guitar channels where I'll record my performances once I get it dialed in. And the reason that is the case, for me anyway, is to allow I just like the effect of it. It keeps things cleaner when each guitar part has its own side. For me, that's my 2 cents on it. The reason I believe that, it just, like, to me, the mental logic, the process of it is, if I dedicate each guitar part to its own speaker, you get no kind of fighting between the guitar part that's the main coming through that speaker with that little bit that you have coming through. The listener, I feel like it's a much bigger stereo, like even like maybe 99, I've heard that maybe like so that there's a bit coming through that I might concede. But I personally, unless I get, unless I get, um, tracks from, uh, a client and they have it done that way. Cause like what I've done here recently is, the guy sent me the Reaper project along with all the performance files in a folder in a Google Doc folder and just shared it with me. And I just grabbed the whole thing, downloaded, unzipped it. And when I opened it, brought it in. And those little things that he did, I left because I wanted him to get a sense that, okay, this is still my mix just built on, right? And so I didn't do it there, with the exception of some lead parts, which I definitely did it on because I just like the way it sounds. And, so did he apparently because he told me. Good job. So anyway, we have the rhythm guitar in. So I'm just going to copy all this and replace another one down. So basically what I did there, and that was weird. So basically what I did was I just highlighted all of these and I pressed Control C to copy them all and then Control V to paste them. They came out weird and then you saw, I manipulated them into place. And that's because I am going to do them for a lead guitar bus. And then just change this to lead and lead. Now, speak about that for a little bit. The reason why you would do that is because it sounds cool. The reason why I do it, I read in a Guitar World magazine way back that Dimebag Darrell did it with all of his lead guitars to give them a certain effect. Zakk Wylde also did it because they had read in a magazine or something of that sort that Randy Rhoads had done it. And it just gives it a very live, sort of chorusy sort of feel when you do it. And then there's ways to, if you receive or are only able to record one good performance of a part, there's a way to kind of trick into sounding the same as what I'm kind of talking about. And we'll get into that in a later episode as well. And then we'll come down and we're just going to add here. And what I'm doing to add the track is I'm just double clicking with my mouse. Like I'm just putting the mouse into an empty space here and double clicking and it adds the track. I'm sure if you want, you could right click and go insert new track or multiple tracks or blah, blah, blah. I just do that. And then we'll go like that. And then we'll go like that. And then this will be vocal bus. And then tab down, press tab, and it brings it down into the next one. And we'll call this vocal main, and then maybe vocal harmony. Now, I don't pan those, at least not if for the main vocal and dubs or harmonies or whatever. Sometimes I will do a pan sort of thing with some dubs to give like a gang vocal sort of stereo field effect, but not often. Whatever, do what you do, and it works. So now that we have the basic track level for your recording session, go File, Save Project As. I have just on my D drive a section where I put all the songs or projects I'm working on. And so for this one, I'll go new, open, and we'll call it, just template. Why not? It doesn't need to be fancy. And we'll come in here and it'll be template number 1 or whatever. It seems like in a lot of characters. Let's just do template 1. And there you have it. That's how you set up a template with folders. And there you go. We'll get into saving effects chains and applying them and all that stuff across all this to utilize your template for fast work.